Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a place where boiling water instantly freezes in mid-air? Or where polar bears casually knock on your door looking for a meal? Welcome to Russia, a land of mind-bending extremes that defies everything you thought you knew about human resilience. The largest country on Earth isn't just big, it's an entire universe of contradictions that will completely transform how you view the limits of human adaptation. Today, we're taking you on a journey to a place where the extraordinary isn't just common, it's necessary for survival. Russia isn't just big, it's almost incomprehensibly massive. Spanning 17 million square kilometers, this colossus stretches across 11 time zones and shares borders with 16 different countries. To put this in perspective, you could fit the entire United States into Russia nearly twice, with room to spare. What's particularly fascinating is that while 70% of Russians live in the European part of the country, the vast majority of the territory actually lies in Asia. This creates a nation that exists between two worlds, neither fully European nor fully Asian, but uniquely Russian. And within this vast landscape, you'll find over 190 ethnic groups speaking more than 100 different languages. Imagine walking through a small village where residents casually switch between 10 different languages during a single conversation. This isn't fantasy, it's everyday reality in parts of Russia. When we talk about cold, most of us think of needing an extra sweater or turning up the heat. In Oymyakon, Russia, cold takes on an entirely different meaning. Known as the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth, temperatures here have plunged to a bone-shattering 67.7 degrees, 90 degrees. Let that sink in for a moment. It's so cold that your eyelashes freeze together when you blink. It's so cold that a cup of boiling water thrown into the air will instantly transform into ice crystals before hitting the ground. Cars that turn off their engines must keep them running continuously or risk never starting again. Yet remarkably, about 500 people call this frozen wasteland home. They've adapted to conditions so extreme that their daily routines seem almost alien to outsiders. Children still attend school unless temperatures fall below 52 degrees, 61.6 degrees, which is apparently just a normal snow day in Oymyakon. And perhaps most surprising of all, Russians in these regions eat ice cream year-round, often standing in long lines for their favorite frozen treat, even when it's 30 degrees outside. Why? Because compared to the ambient temperature, ice cream actually feels warm in their mouths. What may seem like an unbearable hardship to most of the world has fundamentally shaped the Russian character and outlook on life. Where others see brutal conditions, Russians see opportunity and beauty. As spring approaches and temperatures rise to what most would still consider freezing, locals celebrate by sunbathing on snowbanks. Picture this: men and women in swimsuits, laying on blindingly white snow, soaking up whatever weak rays the sun offers after months of darkness. This remarkable adaptability extends to their transportation choices too. While the wealthy could certainly afford luxury vehicles, many Russians prefer the humble Lada, not as a statement of simplicity, but of practicality. The Lada is the epitome of Russian engineering philosophy, stripped down to essentials, built to withstand extreme conditions, and easily repairable with minimal tools. As they say, a Mercedes might look better, but a Lada will get you home in a Siberian blizzard. This isn't just transportation, it's the Russian spirit on wheels. If your mind is already being expanded by these incredible Russian realities, this is just the beginning of our journey. Hit that subscribe button now to join our MindSparks community and never miss our explorations of the world's most extraordinary places and cultures. Each fact we share isn't just information, it's a new perspective on what humans can achieve and endure. Perhaps the most fascinating contradiction in Russian culture is the interplay between coldness and warmth, both literally and figuratively. Russians typically don't smile at strangers. In fact, smiling without cause is often viewed with suspicion or considered a sign of insincerity. Yet, once you're welcomed into a Russian home, you'll experience hospitality so profound it might overwhelm you. Traditional customs dictate that hosts must offer their absolute best to guests, regardless of their own circumstances. This extends to an intriguing tradition where wives take special responsibility for ensuring visitors are well cared for, a custom that has sometimes been misinterpreted by outsiders. And then there's the quintessential Russian ritual, tea from the samovar. This isn't just a beverage, it's a ceremony that brings people together. The traditional samovar, a metal urn with a spigot, keeps water constantly hot, while a concentrated tea essence sits in a small teapot on top. Russians don't just drink tea, they experience it, often spending hours around the samovar in deep conversation that strengthens community bonds during the harshest winter months. One of Russia's most striking and rarely discussed realities is its profound gender imbalance. For every 100 women in Russia, there are only about 86.6 men, meaning roughly 10 million more women than men in the population. This disparity, stemming from a complex mix of historical factors, has shaped both social dynamics and cultural expectations. Russian women have developed a reputation for being simultaneously strong and feminine, highly educated, and family-oriented. They navigate professional success while maintaining traditional values, a balance that many Russians consider uniquely theirs. While stereotypes should always be approached with caution, this demographic reality has created distinctive social patterns that differ markedly from Western countries with more balanced gender ratios. And contrary to what many might assume, this hasn't led to a society dominated by women politically or economically. Russian leadership remains predominantly male, creating another of the country's many fascinating contradictions. While Moscow showcases Russia's striking contrast between ultra-modern architecture and historic grandeur, life beyond the metropolis reveals an even more fascinating picture. In remote northern communities, reindeer patrols are a genuine form of transportation. Some indigenous communities, particularly among the Chukchi people, maintain centuries-old traditions of reindeer herding that provide not only transportation, but food, clothing, and shelter. Even more surprising are the villages where polar bear visits are an occupational hazard. Residents sometimes find these massive predators literally knocking at their doors in search of food. These aren't occasional encounters. They're regular enough that many communities have established polar bear patrols to safely redirect the animals away from human settlements. This reality, living alongside one of the planet's most dangerous predators, has been normalized to an extent that's difficult for outsiders to comprehend. Yet it perfectly exemplifies the Russian approach to extreme circumstances, adaptation rather than retreat. Perhaps to counter the physical extremes of their environment, Russians have developed some of the world's most refined cultural expressions. The Russian ballet isn't merely an art form, it's treated as national patrimony. Young dancers undergo training so rigorous it would be considered excessive in many Western countries, but this intensity produces a distinctive style characterized by both technical perfection and profound emotional expression. Similarly, Russian literature, from Tolstoy to Dostoevsky, plumbs psychological depths that reflect the Russian capacity to find meaning in suffering. Even Russian cuisine, often overlooked in global culinary discussions, reveals a surprising vibrancy. Dishes like borscht, a hearty beet soup, pelmeni, meat dumplings, and blini, thin pancakes, aren't just sustenance, they're edible history, carrying centuries of cultural memory and identity. Food in Russia isn't just about taste, it's about survival, celebration, and national character, often prepared in abundant quantities that reflect traditional Russian hospitality. Surprisingly, despite its challenges, Russia offers a cost of living that many Westerners would find remarkably affordable. A comfortable apartment in Moscow, one of the world's great capitals, typically costs between $195 and $325 monthly, a fraction of rental prices in cities like New York, London, or Tokyo. Food expenses for home-cooked meals average just $180 to $240 monthly, while comprehensive public transportation costs between $6 and $34 per month, depending on usage. All told, the average Russian can live comfortably in major cities on $580 to $150 per month, a figure that would barely cover rent alone in many Western urban centers. This economic reality creates another striking paradox. In one of the world's most challenging environments, necessities remain remarkably accessible. However, this affordability comes with trade-offs, including lower average salaries and economic uncertainties that many Russians have simply incorporated into their resilient worldview. Russian life is governed by customs that might seem peculiar to outsiders but make perfect sense within their cultural context. Before embarking on a journey, Russians traditionally sit for the road, taking a moment of silence while seated, usually on their luggage, to ensure safe travel. Breaking this ritual is believed to invite misfortune. Similarly, giving flowers in even numbers is strictly reserved for funerals, a cultural code so ingrained that florists automatically wrap bouquets with odd numbers of stems. These aren't merely quaint traditions. They're vital social signals that Russians read instinctively. The famous Russian approach to vodka follows similar unwritten rules. This isn't just a beverage. It's a cultural institution with its own etiquette. Proper vodka consumption involves specific toasts, never drinking alone, and always accompanying the drink with food, typically hearty appetizers known as zakouski. To drink without following these protocols isn't just considered improper. It suggests potential alcoholism, a distinction that reveals much about how Russians integrate potentially dangerous practices into controlled social contexts. Perhaps no natural phenomenon better captures Russia's extremes than the famous white Nights of St. Petersburg. Due to the city's northern latitude, 59 degrees N, summer days stretch to surreal length, with the sun barely dipping below the horizon between late May and early July. During this period, the city transforms into a 24-hour celebration where darkness never fully arrives. Just a brief, dreamlike twilight before the sun rises again. The city embraces this natural wonder with the famous White Nights Festival, featuring round-the-clock cultural performances, boat cruises along illuminated canals, and the spectacular midnight opening of the city's bridges. For visitors, the experience is often disorienting yet magical, their body clocks confused by perpetual daylight, while locals seem to abandon sleep entirely, filling cafes and embankments at 2 a.m. as if it were early evening. This astronomical peculiarity has inspired countless artists and writers, becoming integral to Russian cultural identity and offering yet another example of how Russians don't just endure extremes. They transform them into occasions for beauty and celebration. The Russia we've explored today exists in fascinating contradictions. A land where people sunbathe on snow, where boiling water freezes in mid-air, and where some of the world's most refined art emerged from some of its harshest conditions. What we see in this vast nation is not just human survival, but human flourishing against all odds. The Russian capacity to find joy, beauty, and community in extremes offers a profound lesson about adaptability, perhaps the most essential human quality in our rapidly changing world. As climate patterns shift globally, the Russian experience of embracing rather than merely enduring environmental challenges may offer valuable insights for us all. In a world increasingly defined by comfort and convenience, Russia reminds us that humans can thrive in circumstances far beyond what we might imagine possible. The next time you complain about a chilly morning, remember the Russians eating ice cream in 30-degree Sachs weather, and perhaps gain a new perspective on what true resilience looks like. If this journey through Russia's astonishing extremes expanded your mind, we'd love to hear which fact surprised you most in the comments below. This is just one of the extraordinary places we explore at MindSparks, where we transform how you see our remarkable world, one mind-blowing fact at a time. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us next week as we explore another of Earth's most extraordinary places. Until then, keep your mind open to the incredible diversity of human experience. It's even more astonishing than you think.